Welcome back to another episode of Making Our Way, where we share real stories. And today it's a real story of resilience, love, and hope. Today I have the privilege of speaking with Vivian, a wonderful mom who has dedicated her life to supporting her son, Jonathan, who has Duchenne muscular dystrophy. We're going to talk about the emotional challenges, the need for community support, and the small moments of joy that keep her going. Welcome, Vivian. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, Marissa. Thank you for the invite.
So we're going to jump right in today because there's so much that you have to say and that I want you to be able to share. We're both single mothers, by the way, and we've talked a lot about that whole notion of when you need help and when you realize it's really hard to do this on your own, to be a single parent who's caring for a child who is becoming an adolescent and or an adult. And there's a lot to that. Can you share with us a little bit about the moment or the moments, the smaller moments or one big moment, when you realized that Jonathan was going to need additional care or additional help? And what did you go through when you started to have those realizations?
Well, I realized Jonathan needed help when he could not walk for a long distance at a time, where we had to use the wheelchair mostly than him walking. Then over time, it's to the point where he can't walk at all, that I cannot lift him in the car any longer. And experiencing that was very hard for me, especially to see that I couldn't help him anymore. And that broke my heart, and my emotions were just running wild. Because the first thing as a parent for me is my goal is to protect my child and just be there as much as I can for him. And when you're unable to do that, it just crushes your heart a little bit. However, when he comes home from school and has a smile on his face, that changed my heart to happiness and take away the sadness that I experience. You know, it's sporadic. It's not every day, but it's a couple of days, I go through that. But it's just good to see him come home and have a smile on his face. And I think we underestimate their strength. And sometimes I think his strength is more than mine sometimes, stronger than mine.
So you said you realized you couldn't help him anymore. And I know some of your story, and I think that you helped Jonathan in an amazing way. I don't think you can fix it. I think that's a normal process, part of this, but I think you've helped Jonathan in some amazing ways. And I was wondering, Vivian, if you felt comfortable sharing with us the really unique way in which in the recent past you've said, you know what, whatever it takes, I am going to get him out of the house, and I am going to get him to the grocery store, and I'm going to let him come shopping with me. Jonathan is uses a power wheelchair full time during the day, and you don't at this point have a wheelchair accessible van. So
That's correct.
What are you doing to fill that gap right now?
Actually, he stays home. He doesn't go anywhere but to school and to the doctor office. And the way he gets to school is by a bus coming to our house that has a wheelchair lift. So I'm grateful for that we have that service from the school, that he can get to school. Team Joseph also helped me get to some of his doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how I was going to get him there. So that's what we're going through right now. Jonathan expressed to me the other day that someone came to his school to discuss depression, and that he felt that sometimes he had those symptoms. So I think getting him a van and him being able to get out in the community and just go to the movies, to the mall, or just see my family will make our life so much easier, especially Jonathan's.
Yeah. And for perspective, Jonathan's a teenager, He's in high school.
Yes.
So it's what could and should and often is a very social time for
Yeah.
teens. I know that he was interested in something in particular, and he had to give up. Did you tell me he had to give up going to STEM, the STEM
He
club?
like robotics. He's in the energy engineering program at school. So this year,
Yep.
last year, which is after school, this year was the actual class. However, he can't stay after school anymore. He can't
Yeah.
participate in the activities or like they have competitions. He can't go because I can't pick him up from school. So I know that bothers him a little
Yeah.
bit, myself as well, because I know he really loves it, but he can't enjoy it as
Yeah.
much as he can because he's unable to get home from school
Yeah.
after school.
So, if you don't mind, Vivian, I want to take you back maybe a year or two before this point in time today, because I think for so many parents, and listen, we're talking about Duchenne today, but we could be talking about any rare disease. We could be talking about just an illness, any special circumstances or situation. Whereas a parent, we say, you know what, I am going to figure this out. I'm going to do whatever it takes for my child. It's really, I think, just a universal part of parenting that we feel this responsibility in a beautiful way. Um, but before this point, when you said, you know what, this is just too much. I can't physically lift him into the car. You were taking him out of his power chair, putting him into a manual chair, taking him out to the
Yes,
car, and then you were physically lifting him into the back seat of the car,
actually the front seat
into the
because he
front
don't
seat
have
of the
enough
car.
room
And
in the back.
right. And so it became unmanageable where now, for all practical purposes, other than school, Jonathan is housebound.
Yes,
But before that, you were making it work to a degree.
yes.
But even that, so I think sometimes we're harder on ourselves. I think people think, well, how important is a van? Or, can't you just figure it out? Will you tell me about some of the times, because I think it's so important and it's so compelling. Some of those times when you did get him out into the community, you did go to the grocery store, but maybe it didn't go according to plan.
December 28th, his dad took him to get his hair cut, and we had to use my car because that's the car he can get in the car. He was able to get in the car, okay? But in our mind, he was able to get in the car. So they called and said that they couldn't get him in the car, that he fell. Okay, that was December 28th. He hurt his back a little bit. So that following week, we were traveling to Pittsburgh for a doctor's appointment at Children's Hospital. And I normally rent a car. So I always get a car that I know that Jonathan can fit in. But unfortunately, this particular trip, that didn't happen. The first car we got in, he fell, and the Enterprise helped me get him in the car. But I didn't feel comfortable. Something kept telling me, do not leave Enterprise, because I just did not feel comfortable leaving, not knowing how I would be able to get him back in the car. So we tried 2, 3 more cars, and each time I lifted him up to get in the car, he fell each time. And that's when I realized I have to do something different when it comes to purchasing a van. I became impatient with the struggles of getting help or the length of time it takes to get help. So I'm going to go back from to a year. I gave up on the van. I just said I was becoming overwhelmed. I gave up. But this point of December 28th on, I had to change my mindset and become positive, more positive.
So, Vivian, sorry, but I want to go back to when you said it became too hard. So, first of all, let's paint this picture here. We're not talking about you and I buying a sedan or, a functional, just whatever kind of a car. We're talking about a wheelchair accessible van with modifications and a ramp and all sorts of equipment that accommodates his wheelchair. We're talking about a decent used one from $40,000 up to $80,000 for a new vehicle.
Yes.
So this is a big deal. And we don't need to talk specifics. We don't want to mention names, but I do want to talk about the complexity of
Okay.
this, and that there are services, there are state programs that should be helping
Yes.
you, that should be available, that technically are available. But because of the length of time for the evaluations and for to get responses and all of that, it it just was taking too
Yes.
long and became something you couldn't tolerate. Is that
That is
accurate for?
accurate. That is accurate, but that's accurate, but I kept thinking of Jonathan. But he can't go anywhere. And my concern was with him mentioning that he has symptoms of depression, I want to prevent adding to the depression he's feeling. So I just feel that it was time to add some happiness to his life.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that, but stick with me for a second. I want to take you back to this period of time where he had fallen, and this is you're trying to transfer him into the vehicle, and it's too difficult to do, and he falls onto the ground. I know there've been a couple of times when you've had to call for
Yes, the
help, either
ambulance.
ask strangers to help you or call,
Ambulance like
yeah,
that.
EMS or the fire department. Yeah. Um, and I understand that. I lived through that with my dad later in his life when he had Parkinson's and he would fall,
Mhm.
and it was just, he was just that dead weight. We couldn't pick
Right.
him up. We had to call the fire department. Thank you, fire departments
Yes.
all over the place who help us in situations. Um, but I know you mentioned Jonathan had expressed maybe he was noticing some of the telltale signs of depression.
Mhm.
I want to talk just for a second, if you would share with us about as a mom and what was in your heart or your head or your emotions. What when you when you know that he can't get out of the house, if you do attempt it, there's the chance of harm, him being harmed physically, falling onto the ground, knowing that he's struggling, seeing him as a teenager being housebound. What does that what does that do to you as a mom?
It causes pain, sadness, depression as well. Just a lot of pain. I feel a lot of pain in my heart. I do.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
in order for me to go to sleep, sometimes I have to say, let go, just let go, so I can go to sleep. Because I constantly think about those things with the pain that I go through, especially when I see him in pain. And that causes more pain for me as his mom.
yeah, yeah. And and you've talked too about the space to process that struggle of, do you keep it from him, or does he see you struggle or be upset? Um, how does that work in your house?
I have to come back. I come back and apologize to him and tell him I'm sorry that I cried in front of him, that I would try to do better with my emotions. Because I think that him seeing me cry, that's probably add to his depression or cause him to worry where he may not express his feelings to me because he's trying to protect my heart. So I need to do better at that because he'll share his he'll share his thoughts with my mom. And sometimes he doesn't share with me. And I think because he's trying to protect my heart. So I just told him that I just apologize and just told him that I want him to come to me, but I am thankful he has my mom.
Yeah, yeah, Vivian, um, people watching, if you're listening, you're not going to be able to see it at all. But if you're watching, you might not be able to see it either yet, because Vivian, behind your head, you have this beautiful plaque and it just says family. I got to see it before you got settled there.
Okay.
And your mom, I know, is a great source of support for you.
Yes.
Where else do you get that? Where do you get that? Just where do you draw strength?
My friends, um, my family, my mother
Mm,
do a lot. for me, but I do have my brother and my dad who supports me, mentally. And if I need help, they
Yeah.
will help me. Um, I think that I need to go back to therapy. I think that was a lot of help for me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of that. Um, Question for you. Tell me about your workplace. You have so
Excuse me.
so in the world of needing a lot of insurance coverage for a lot of struggles and special needs, special circumstances medically, we really have to rely on our insurance, medical insurance. And sometimes it goes well, sometimes it does not go very well. And you're in a really unique situation when we talk about support and how we get support and when things do or don't go well. Um, Tell us a little bit about your workplace and what you do, if that's okay.
Well, I work for an insurance company, and I work for the insurance company that I have coverage through. And sometimes when there was a medication that Jonathan needed, and they kept denying it because they wanted him to try a different steroid first. And so this went on for a couple of years. They kept denying it. And the sad part for me is that I'm in meetings or I'm fighting for my son in a meeting with my colleagues. That made me uncomfortable sometimes, to sit with my colleagues or my coworkers on a call fighting for my son, and then I know that it's get denied. And so I stopped wanting to go to the meetings because the appeal meetings, because I just felt like they deny it every time. So I didn't want to go anymore, but I wouldn't stop. I didn't want to give up. But it got to the point where I just didn't want to go anymore, and that's not good. But I still kept the faith, and I still would go every year. And finally, after 3 years, an external review company overturned their decision.
Yeah, I mean, if I really pause and think about that, that is absolutely staggering to me that you had to endure that.
Hmm.
So it's bad enough for those of us who get the letter in the mail that says,
Right.
you've been denied this service or this equipment, but to sit there with the people with whom you work every
Hmm.
single day, and your son is a case,
Yes.
and you have to be there advocating as the mom, but yet this is your place of work.
Yes.
Vivian, that is unimaginable, and you are amazing.
And I was worried. I was concerned too about my job because I worked there. So I had to learn to separate the two. That's my job and I'm a member. So I had to accept the fact this is two separate entities. So
So, in addition to those kinds of struggles, though, we talk about support and help, and where we grab onto hope. Tell me about some of your coworkers who have been so incredibly beautiful to you, and what they've offered to you, and how they let you know they see you, and they love you.
I have some wonderful co-workers, colleagues. They have always been there for me. When Jonathan first broke his leg in 2018, I never felt loved from a job like that. They all came together. And one particular coworker at my job, he would like to come in and help me with respite care. He wants to spend, he's willing to spend the weekend with Jonathan so I can take a little mini vacation up north. Um,
Yeah.
just he expressed to me that, excuse me, he just didn't want this to be a one-time thing, that they would like to be friends with Jonathan and I and just be there for us. So that is just a wonderful feeling.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. So, Vivian, let's talk about this. Your friends at work who said, we want to come and give you, respite, give you a break. will help you so you can take a little vacation, get away, have some rest. Um, was there a turning point for you that encouraged you to accept help from the community? Because it's hard on a lot of us, and I know you've talked about that. That's just hard to
Yes.
accept help.
I just felt overwhelmed. I wasn't in a good place. I was in a dark space. And so I said, I don't want to live like this, you know? So I finally told him I will, you know, he it's funny because he was like, I'm gonna keep calling you too, Vivian. I'm gonna keep calling you until you respond. So and then I finally met with them and Jonathan so they can meet Jonathan. And I knew then I told them both I need help. I realized I've been needing help. I just hard for me to accept help, but I just didn't like the place I was in.
Yeah. What an act of courage on your part, to get to that point. And I want to say this: your work friends who said to you, you know, we want to do this for you. And I think there was something really important that he said, and that was, I'm going to keep calling you. I'm going to keep asking you to help. And that's so beautiful to me because so many times people will say to somebody they care about, a colleague or a family member, they'll say, well, let me know what you
Right.
need. And I would say, I have no idea what I need. I'm trying to figure
Each
out what I'm
day,
going to make for
yes.
dinner, or I don't know what I need. Anything. Just don't make me ask. Just offer it, or drop off a cheeseburger on my front porch and water my plants. I don't know what I need. So I think that's just such a beautiful demonstration of friendship and of true
Yes.
community, to say, I'm gonna reach out to you,
Yes.
and I'm gonna keep
Yes.
asking. Yeah, that's beautiful. How is that, like, accepting that kind of help and knowing that that's there for you? How has it changed your perspective?
That I need to let go of pride because
Mm,
people love me. And I know that. And just like my colleague said, my coworker said, stop and just say yes sometimes. Just say yes. There's nothing wrong with just saying yes. So after me just talking to him and him just giving me that motivational talk, just words of wisdom or just encouragement, it makes me feel good because sometimes you feel alone, but you're not, but you feel like it, you know. So that makes me feel that, although he don't have the experiences with a child with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, just the fact they're willing to learn.
yeah, for sure. For sure. Vivian, so we can't not talk about this. We have to talk about the new developments in your world in the last couple of weeks, week or so, but it's really coming to a beautiful, I don't know, closure this week. You've got some progress on
Yes.
getting Jonathan a van,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. I just finally just said I can't take it anymore. And because I've been working on getting a van for a year, I just, like I said before, it was overwhelming. But the good news is that once I got in this, once my heart once I became in a better place out of that dark space I was feeling, I think I started getting more motivated, going to the dealerships and getting the information. And I sent it to 2 organizations for assistance. So I'm excited. And he just keeps saying, Mommy, I just cannot wait. I just cannot wait. I just cannot wait. I get to go to the movies. He just want to go to the movies, So
Oh,
it's exciting to see him excited. And I'm hoping that take away some of the pain or depression or sadness that he has.
absolutely. It's life
Mm-hmm.
changing. Yeah, and it's not only those doctor appointments. You know, we focus on care so much, and when we talk about doctor appointments and treatments and clinical trials and all of those medically things, disease is a medical issue and a medical term, but the living of it is a human experience. right? So living with it is about humanity and about just those basic wants and needs that everybody should have access to, like going to the
Mm-hmm.
movies for
Yeah,
Jonathan. I'm
I'm
so excited
excited.
for you all, and just glad to kind of walk alongside you and know that that's happening. It's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Vivian, if Jonathan were to describe you,
Hmm.
how do you think he'd describe you? Unfair question when you have a teenage son.
I'm gonna ask him that question too. How would you describe me? He would probably say, he would probably say my mother loves me. Um,
Aw,
he will say that I'm probably hard on him a little bit
uh-huh.
with his education, but I really believe that he would say my mommy loves me.
Absolutely.
I think he would, but I'm
Absolutely.
gonna ask him today. But yes,
You need to report back to us. Um,
because I think he knows that I tried my best.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Vivian, for other families, parents going through anything, just a difficult time with their child, whether it's a temporary, might be temporary, or maybe it's something ongoing and long term, what would be your advice or tips for them?
One thing I will advise or suggest is to try your best not to give up, because this is easily to do. It is. But just try your best not to give up, have hope, and accept help, and let go of
I
pride.
love that. I love that. And we've talked today, pretty in depth about some of the struggles and just those tender moments and those tough spots. But Vivian, let's not forget about the joy. So I want to ask you, what brings you joy? What makes you happy?
One of the things that I mentioned earlier is that when I see Jonathan come home and he's smiling, that there makes me feel good, because although he's, maybe going through his own challenges within, he's still smiling. And that makes me feel good. I need to learn from my baby. And I think I'm a happy person. I think I have but just seeing him come home and he's smiling, that's the happiest thing for me.
Yeah. What what do you think? What's the most important or the greatest or the most profound thing that he's taught you?
For a lot of things. He taught me strength because he goes through a lot. And for me to see him still push through each day, no matter how much pain he in or how sad he is, he keep going. And I need to be a role model for him. I need to do that. It quit me in slow motion.
Well, Vivian, I think you're doing it. I think you're doing it beautifully. And you two are just a special, incredible team together, you and Jonathan. And I know there are other people who support you, but it's the two of you in your house every day. And yeah, I just you are special. I want to ask you one more thing. As we kind of wind down here, if your life was a movie or a book, what would the title be?
Hope. Yes. We gotta have hope. Just hope. Yeah, hope.
Vivian, thank you for being here today. Your story is one of so much strength and vulnerability and beauty. And I just think your message, which is just the way you live your life, is going to resonate with so many people, with parents, with everybody. Um, and to anybody listening or watching, if you're facing a similar path or a struggle that might seem insurmountable, I hope Vivian's story reminds you that you're never in this alone. Thanks, Vivian, for being here with
Thank
us.
you so much for having me.